So that night, I got in my bed and I thought, what on earth was that about? And am I having negative thoughts like this all the time and I'm just not aware of them? Well, I was to find out the answer to that, but not in the way I ever would have expected. As I was lying there, I thought, I've had therapy, I've done this, I've done that, and I thought I kind of got rid of all these negative thoughts. But apparently, they are fully in bloom in my life. So what is going to kick them out if all these other techniques didn't? I sat there thinking, I thought, I've got a great idea. I'm going to sign up for one of those camps where you go and you every day you do scary things and you push your boundaries and you're going to develop all this courage. That's going to kick those things right out. So I looked online. I found this camp. It wasn't starting for a while, but I said, I can handle it. It'll be okay. Well, time passes. Now it's time to go to this camp. And my friend Michelle, my best friend, came with me, and I'm really grateful she did, as it was to turn out. So we're walking up to this place, super remote, took all these different types of transportation to get there. We're going up there with our suitcases and our tents. So it was a week-long camp. And before we even go to set up our tent, they say, oh no, you have to sign this form. I'm like, what is this? Oh, it's a liability form. And it was crazy. It was like, if you get eaten by wolves and fall off a cliff and lose your right arm or you die, it's not our problem. And we're like, okay, we sign. And then we're leaving and they go, oh, no, wait, you have another form. I'm like, what's this? It's a non-disclosure form, so I can't tell you what we did in this camp. But I can tell you, it was a week long and it was scary as hell. And every day I woke up going, oh my God, what are we gonna do now? And it was super physically intense. I ate mounds of food at every meal and I still lost weight. I was sweating like crazy. I got a 5-minute shower in there, so thank God I brought my deodorant. It was very intense. And yes, I did develop a ton of courage. I did all sorts of things I never possibly thought I could do. And then the last day was an endurance experience involving bricks, that's all I'll say. And it was a beautiful sunny day. And I had my water, I didn't want to be dehydrated. And so we're teamed up, so I have this delightful young woman from Mexico City as my teammate. And we start off on this thing. Everything's going fine. Yeah, I'm tired, but I'm doing it. We get halfway, have a little bite, we're coming back, and something weird started happening. First, my legs got really wobbly. Everything was just kind of shaking. This is odd. I must be tired or dehydrated. I better drink more water. And then I started seeing these flashes of light everywhere. What is that? And kind of like auras around things, just really psychedelic kind of sensory experiences. Then this delightful girl with me, when she would talk to me, her words were all warbled. And she said, Barbara, I was outside and it was inside the water and it's in the sun just, and I was like, I didn't know what she was saying, but I didn't want to freak her out and freak me out more by saying, I don't know what you're saying. So I just kind of nodded, kept going. And at the same time, I could hear conversations with clarity that were really far away. So I didn't know what was happening. Well, I made it to the end, which blew my mind that I could do it. But I did. And the only thing is, at the very end, I realized, wow, something is wrong. Because as I'm coming up to the finish line, there's people on either side of us cheering us on. And as I'm running through, it was like a horror movie. They were all strobing like this and going, everything's reverbing and everyone looks weird and there's flashes of light. The whole sensory explosion was wrong. It was not a happy feeling. And I sat down and I thought, God, I'm gonna faint. And I saw some guy I talked to earlier and I said, hey, will you go get a medic? I think I'm gonna faint. He goes, huh? oh, okay. He was sauntering off, no big deal. And I'm like, hurry, thinking, well, minutes pass. I don't know, it took maybe 15 minutes. He finally saunters up and he goes, oh, they said you'll be fine, just rest here. I'm like, oh my God. So eventually I had some people help me get back to the main camp, and I started asking for a medic. Well, this guy shows up, sweetheart guy, but he was no medic. I think he had maybe a 3-hour CPR training. And he took one look at me and he looked more scared than I did. And he did do tests, blood pressure and this kind of thing. And with every test, he was getting more, his eyes were just getting bigger and bigger and not knowing what to do. And so I'm laying there. He did give me electrolytes, which I think is what, on a physical level, saved my life. My friend, meanwhile, Michelle, comes up. She goes, oh, I've been looking for you everywhere. What is wrong? She said later, my skin was this ashen color, and I had these dark circles under my eyes, and my eyes were completely vacant. I was not present. And she knew something was desperately wrong. So they decided to bring me back to my tent and have me lie down for a while. Because no one thought I was dying. I sure didn't think I was dying. I just knew something was wrong. So it's too hot in the tent, so they lay me under this beautiful big leaf maple tree. And while I'm lying there, the guy takes off. He said he'll come back and check in on me. My friend's holding my hand, praying, doing Reiki on me. And suddenly I go into a panic because my left leg is draining of any kind of presence or energy. It's going numb, it's disappearing. And I start screaming, Michelle, my leg, what's wrong, Barbara? It's disappearing, I can't feel it. And then my right leg, and then my left arm, and then my right arm. And now all I could tell of myself was a torso and a head. That was my existence. And I am scared. And at that moment, I started feeling the weirdest sensation of my life energy starting to flow out the top of my head. And I said, oh boy, I am in big, big trouble. Right at that moment, a movie started playing in my head that was crystal clear, not like a memory that's a little bit foggy. It had sounds, and I could feel all the emotions that I had of this movie that was something that happened 2 weeks prior in my life when I was at a band rehearsal with my brother and it hadn't been going well. And the movie's playing, and then it freeze frames. And this voice appears in my head, not my normal internal voice, not a voice from outside, this calm, neutral, kind of male voice. And it said, what were you thinking at that moment? And I thought, I told him what I was thinking, and the movie went off the screen. A new movie took its place of something that had happened maybe a month earlier. It freeze framed. Again, I was asked, what were you thinking? The next one that came up, it freeze framed, they said, what did that gesture mean when you turned your head down at that moment? Another one was, what did it mean when you raised your eyebrow at that moment? Each of these went over and over for 4 hours. 4 hours of this. I used to call it a life review, and now I'm thinking it's so different from traditional NDE life reviews. I think it is what I call a mind review or a thought review. So this went on and on and on. I became really engrossed in it and way less afraid of what was going on with my body. But meanwhile, that life energy was still going out of the top of my head. At the end of it, the voice said, okay, Barbara, now it's your time to tell us, would you like to stay or go? Stay in my body, go back to my life, or go to this thing that I was right on the edge of. It was almost like a curtain that I could peer through, and I could feel what was on the other side. And it's like what everyone has described here, this incredible sense of peace and love, like arms that just, the arms you always wanted to hold you are waiting. And I thought, wow, that looks really great over there, but I don't know if I'm finished here. So I had questions of my own to ask that voice, and I'll get back to those a little later in the talk. I did make the choice to come back. At the moment I made that choice, I could feel all the life energy shooting back into my head. I could feel each limb coming back to life very quickly, like within just a few minutes. And I was back. I opened my eyes. The sun by then had gotten really low, and it was this incredibly beautiful orange hue everywhere. The back of my friend's auburn hair was glistening and lit up by that color. I saw the most beautiful big old bumblebee buzzing around the most beautiful flower I'd ever seen. I was like, oh my God, I'm alive. For the next month, oh my gosh, for a month, it was like I was on heaven on earth, because it really felt like I'd been through a rebirth. Everything that I felt and tasted and heard was so extraordinarily beautiful. It was absurd. I would smell every flower that I passed on the street. And I could hear music not just through my ears, but even through my feet. I tasted foods like I'd never tasted them before. It was like the state of presence had walked in through my front door. Because here I was alive. I could see things, I could dance, I could breathe the fresh air. I could have a bad dream and not even care. And that happened to me. You know how you wake up from a dream and you're like, oh no, that's coloring my whole day, this bad color. I started down that road when I had my bad dream and went, oh, wait a minute. This is so great. I have a bad dream. It means I'm alive. And I love life, and I love my 5 senses. So this incredible state lasted for a month. And then I started eating while I was working. Music started playing in the background. I started smelling maybe 1 flower a block. And worst of all, self-doubt started to come back. Self-criticism started to come back. And worry, which was my personal kryptonite, started coming back. I was a big worrier about someone in my life that I care deeply about, whose life wasn't going the way I thought it should be going. So I was worried for him all the time. And that became the turning point, because I sat down and I said, okay, what was the common denominator of all those questions that voice asked me during that life review or mind review? And I realized they were all about my thoughts, my negative thoughts. And I realized if I could change that pattern of thinking, perhaps my life would be completely different. And that's exactly what happened.